Hi folks, in today's video I will be reviewing character sheets for Pathfinder 2nd edition. So in this video I'm going to be reviewing 5 character sheets, the official character sheet, and 4 additional ones. Now this isn't quite like the character sheet review I did for 5th edition because it's not a dyslexic character sheet review. I just couldn't find any specifically made for people with dyslexia for Pathfinder 2nd edition, but if you know of any, please let me know in the comments below. So with that in mind, let's actually start off with the official Pathfinder character sheet. I went ahead and printed out the printer-friendly black and white version of this because the color version is just too much for me, and also almost all the rest of the character sheets that I'm reviewing are designed to be printed out, so they're black and white to be a little bit more printer friendly, so this made a little bit even comparison. So let's start off with the cons with this character sheet. I think the biggest thing that I dislike about this character sheet is it is very busy. There are a lot of these like big black blocks that do help break up the character sheet, but it makes it very busy. It makes it hard to see, and that combined with the all caps just makes it hard for me to kind of find things on the character sheet. The second biggest con is there isn't really enough space in some spots. Like for the traits, I had to write itty bitty tiny and I could barely fit everything in. There were a number of other spots on the character sheet where I kind of struggled to put in the information I needed. Like for example, on the feats page, there's enough space to write the name of the feat, and you could probably put in like the page number that the feat appears on, but you definitely don't have space to write really even a note of what the feat does. So that's a little, I don't love that. I would rather have a character sheet that has enough room to write in at least a like reminder to myself of what the feat does, rather than having to remember just based off of the name of the feat alone. And the final con for me is the spell page just doesn't quite make sense to me. There's a clear space to write like the name of the spell and a very brief description. You're going to have to write very small again. And because of the way that it's set up, it's actually very difficult for me to, looking at it, be able to tell between the material, vocal, and somatic. I've checked these in, but it's still difficult to actually see those check marks in that big black box. With the cons in mind, here are the things I like about the official character sheet. I like that they have symbols. That is a great nod to accessibility that I would love to see kind of pushed even further, but having the symbol for the AC, having the heart for the hit points, and the different symbol to differentiate between melee and range strikes, that makes it a lot easier for me to find the things that I'm looking for on a page full of text. I also think it's arranged pretty well. This first page gives you most of the things that you're going to need to reference to make rolls and stuff like that. I do like that they give you plenty of space on the feat page to have all of your feats, level 1 through 20. I'm not afraid I'm going to run out of space. And I also like that they do give you a nice, I haven't filled this page in, but they do give you a nice page to write down kind of the more flavor elements of your character. This is more of the stats, and this is more of the flavor. I like that. And then the spell page is decent, and you could probably also print a second one of these off if you have like a cleric or somebody who has access to a ton of spells and then only prepares a certain number. Alright, so with the core character sheet reviewed, those are my thoughts. Let's move on to some other character sheets that I found that were designed to be printed out. This second character sheet I got off of Etsy. Now it did cost me $6.99, so that's perhaps a con compared to the other ones. And again, let's start off with the things that I don't love about this. Some of the boxes on here I find a little too small, especially like the weapon proficiencies down here, because of the width of the lines and how small it is. It's similar to those vocal, somatic, and material components on the official character sheet. It's difficult to fill them in and then also be able to see which ones I've filled in versus not. as well as some of the spacing of the boxings, I think, had the boxes been a little bit closer together, I could have actually had a little bit more room to write things in them to make it a little bit bigger. That's especially important if you, unlike me, have large handwriting. I have small handwriting, and I even found this a little difficult from times. I'm not super thrilled with the layout of the ability scores. I like it being central, and I do kind of like this arc design, but I would have liked it maybe a little bit bigger or a little bit clearer which circle is for what. Another thing that I don't love is on this spell page, this pentagon symbol. It is also on the actions page. It's a little confusing. I think it might be meant to be for if it's a 1, 2, or 3 action, ability, or spell, if it's reaction or a free action, because there is a little tiny F down at the bottom. It's a little confusing. It's not super clear. I guess you could also use it to fill out whatever you want it to mean. Again, I would have liked a little bit clearer of a design. On to the things that I like. First off, this comes as a form fillable PDF, which is great, especially if you don't have the neatest handwriting. You can type everything in, and then, you can also, if you have larger handwriting, you can scale down the text to still be readable, but small enough to fit in the information you need. I also like that it is simpler. Just even looking at this first page compared to the official character sheet, I mean, that looks a little simpler, not quite as busy. With that simplicity, there's also a little bit more space for writing certain things. I did say some spaces are a little too small, but there are some places that are much bigger. For example, on the second page, you've got your inventory, and you also have a fantastic area for feats and features descriptions. So you have kind of a ton of space. Now granted, if you've got a level 20 character, you might start running out of room here, but especially for those earlier levels, you can write out the feat and a quick reminder of what it does. I also like that there's the actions page as well as the second of the spell pages. You could print these out on their own if you need additional pages for these. So if you have a caster that has a ton of spells, or if you're playing a character like perhaps a monk that you have a lot of different actions you need to keep track of, you can print off a couple more of these pages. And I just liked having that clearer spot on a character sheet for those things. And I will say links to all of these character sheets will be provided in the description if you want to go check them out for yourself. On to the next character sheet, which is a step even further in the minimal compared to the official character sheet. Again, I'll start off with the things I don't love about this character sheet. On the spell page, if I can get there, things are sticking together. It's got the spell and focus pool up at the top, which I like that it's got that, but it's missing a spot for cantrips. And like Nexen, all these character sheets are Nexen from the Rise of the Rune Lords over on Dead Aussie's channel. Link to those videos up here. I have 10 cantrips that I know, but 5 that I can have prepared. So it would be good to have a reminder of that on the character sheet. And the other con that I have with this character sheet is that because it is so simple, there are some spots that are a little minimal. Like the attacks, it doesn't give you a whole lot of space for your attacks. So depending on your character, you might find that you need more space because you have more weapons or more kinds of attacks. It doesn't kind of go into the detail that the core official character sheet has. Again, you don't have space to put much more than just the name of things. So while it is a lot easier to find things because it's minimal, you also just have less space for things and less stuff. So the things that I do like about this character sheet is that it is clean. It is minimal. I also like that there is a decent writing space for everything. I didn't feel like I was having to cramp any of my handwriting. I also liked the arrangement of the skill boxes and the trained expert master level checklist off to the side. Fairly decent, size inventory. If you're going to have a lot of items, you might need an extra page. And there is a nice section that you can add just kind of any miscellaneous notes that you have. And then on the spell page, there is enough space for the details to write out very basic. On a bunch of these character sheets, I wrote out the spell Daze, which is not a complicated spell, and I was able to write the page number and the basic things I need to know, which is like how far can I cast the spell, what is the target, what is the duration, and what is the will save, and on most of the other ones I also had a note about like what the spell does, like the damage and all of that. I also think that the component list on this is much easier to see and fill in than, for example, on the official character sheet. I also appreciate that the text is not in all caps, which makes it much easier for me to read as somebody who is dyslexic. And I think it just, it's easier to read. That's all I need to say. All right, this next character sheet I touched on briefly in my previous 5th edition dyslexic character sheets review. You can go find out more about why I have some issues with this character sheet, but the short version is just, it is called dyslexic character sheets. It is not designed for people with dyslexia. It's a misleading name. But the site does feature some fantastic class-specific character sheets, and that's why it's on my list, because it's one of the few class-specific character sheets I found that were set up well, that were designed to be printed out. So starting with the things that I didn't love about this character sheet, when I printed it out, the text for kind of the headers printed weird. The first letter is like behind all of the other letters, so on some of them it kind of cuts off a little bit of the letter. This may be because there's an option that you can print in all caps and like caps and smaller caps, but a small con with this character sheet makes it a little harder to read those. It also has quite a bit of kind of empty space. For some reason, the second page is basically just a blank page with like space for the character name, your name, campaign. Now this might be a nice big space that you can draw or insert a character portrait, but you also have a space for a character portrait here. So I don't know. It seems like kind of a wasted piece of paper that printed out. As well as there are a few spots where I think the layout wasn't as great. Like, for example, there's an advancement chart. While I appreciate having that advancement chart that kind of helps me as a player make sure I'm leveling up correctly, I don't need this on a character sheet, especially a page that I might be referencing on a regular basis. I would rather this was kind of its own thing at the back, and maybe had space to have a little bit more spots to write descriptions of abilities. Also, I don't love the spellbook page of these character sheets. It's just kind of meh for me. It's a step above maybe having just a piece of notebook paper with the spells written on it. It does give you a little bit of guidance, but there wasn't kind of a clear area for where do I write the name of the spell with the spacings of the lines. I was able to, shove in just the basic things that I needed to know about Daze, but if I have a more complicated spell, I'm not really going to be able to add much to here to be able to reference. So it was just kind of a meh spell page for me. All right, so what are the things that I do like about this character sheet? First of all, it has this reference sheet that I believe was an optional thing to print off. This was nice, especially having like the symbols, and these are featured throughout the character sheet, and kind of a quick reminder of the various actions and stuff like that, as well as this has a page for your familiar because it's a witch and familiars are important for witches. This was the first time that I'd seen a character sheet for a familiar, and I might actually use this for next in, so I have a character sheet for Nyx. Another pro for these character sheets are it does feel a lot less cluttered. So to have the same information that's on the official character sheet, it's on 2 pages. But again, I like that. It gives me enough space to write things in. It makes it easy to find things. And I also like that it has symbols, like it has the proficiency symbols to keep track of that. There's a little die symbol next to things. It's got like a dagger and an arrow, small symbols, but just a little bit. And because it is a little bit more simplified, it's easier to see those smaller things. The other thing is these are class specific. So I'm going to have more space for the things that are important for my character's class. So I'm not going to be wasting space with, well, I'm not playing a spellcaster. I don't need any of this space for this. Great. Or if you are playing a spellcaster, you're going to have a little bit more space for those things. I also felt like these character sheets, it just made a little bit more sense to me what went where with the layout, as well as some of the symbols and all of that. It was a little less mathy and a little bit more, okay, if I do a little bit of math in my head and just write down the things that I need to reference, but it still had some of those things off to the side so I can check in to see how did I reach this number. All right, and now we're on to the final character sheet, and I think this is my favorite character sheet. It also is a little different because it's landscape instead of portrait. So this character sheet, let's talk about the cons. On the second page, which is the feats page, again, there's not enough space in here to write in a description of the feats. You really only have enough space to write the name. On the spell page, there is minimal space to write in your spells. I was able to cram in with tiny handwriting all the info I needed for days. And like one of the other character sheets, there's no spell slots for cantrips, so I wrote that in notes. It was a solution, but cantrips. Those are a thing. So what are the things I do like about this character sheet? I like that it is clear and not cramped. This has pretty much, this has everything, almost everything, if not everything, that is on the official character sheet, but because of its layout, I think it doesn't feel as busy, as well as the choice on the weight of the lines and having like grayscale boxes for a bunch of things. It just makes the writing stand out a little bit more, so that makes it clearer. I do like that it has a couple of symbols, so it's got the shield and the heart to make those things easy to find. I know what my hit points are. I know what my AC is. 2 important numbers to definitely know. Filling this in, I did not feel like I was having to cram things in quite as much. And the final thing I liked is on this second page, which has your feats and your inventory. There's also a spot for properties, estates, and lands, which is a cool thing to have. So if your character owns like a house or a shop or like a kingdom, I guess, you could write that in there, keep notes on that. That was a cool thing that I haven't seen on any of the other character sheets. That is my review of these 5 character sheets for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I still feel like I haven't found my perfect character sheet for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but all of these had pros and cons in them. There are definitely ones that I could see myself using, and hopefully there's one in here that you really like. And if there is, let me know which one you like and that you might think about using. Editing done here, I also wanted to say a special thanks to all of the people who created these character sheets. Thank you for all the hard work and making them available to other folks, and links are to all of the character sheets are in the description below. Also, if you know of any other Pathfinder character sheets, especially ones designed for people with dyslexia or other neurodivergent individuals like myself, please let me know down in the comments below. I would definitely love to check those out. Don't forget to follow us on our social media, where you can find out all the cool things that we're up to, like games that we're playing and just other things. And if you really enjoyed this video and want to help support what we do, help us purchase character sheets for review and set aside the time to fill out all these character sheets and film these videos for you, you can back us on Patreon. A big thanks to all of our patrons, especially Alicia. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you give it a thumbs up. And if you know of somebody who's looking for character sheet recommendations, hey, send them this video and hopefully it will be helpful for them. All right, I'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative. Bye. Okay. Oh, I have to do the thumbnail. Don't forget the thumbnail. Can I hold all these in one hand? Haha, I can hold them all in one hand. Yeah.